everyone, and welcome back to my craft room. My name is Kelsey. I also call myself Dinosaur Mama, and this week I am working on a bigger project that is going to span across 2 videos. So today is going to be part 1 on how we make a where we met sign with our Cricut. Now I am going to show in part 2 how you can make this on your laser machine. I am using an M1X tool, but I am also going to show how you can achieve a similar look with your Cricut. That being said, the first part of this video is how you make the SVG design, so the actual map of where you met your partner. In part 2, we'll go into how you actually create the craft using your Cricut or your laser. So for this part, I also want to say that we are going to show 2 ways on how to achieve this map design. One is going to be with Procreate in our iPad and then exporting that over into Inkscape on desktop. And then the other one is going to be completely in Inkscape, which is a free program that I will link below. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel to keep up with all new crafts every week. Let's get started in Procreate. So the first part of this tutorial is going to be how to draw the map in Procreate. If you do not have an iPad and the Procreate app, I will be showing you in a few minutes how to do this entire process on Inkscape for free. So if you have a desktop, you'll be able to do it on Inkscape, but if you do not have a desktop, you're probably gonna have to do this within Procreate and save it as a PNG file in multiple layers. The first part of this is to grab a snapshot of the map of where you want the location to be. So I searched where my husband and I had our first date, and I am taking a screenshot. Obviously, this took me a few minutes, and I'm taking a screenshot of this map that I just pulled up on Google. I used my fingers to pinch it to where I wanted it to be, and now all I'm doing is cropping it within the iPad photo taking. So I'm just cropping it to the map. Don't worry about the circle yet or anything like that. We just want our map, and I actually made sure that the location was pretty much centered into that map. Once you have your map chosen and cropped, you can upload that screenshot right into Procreate, and you're going to start a new layer. I'm going to use a monoline brush in black. That's going to be just the best way to be able to see all these lines. And you want to use the monoline brush because it's going to give you really smooth edges. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm changing my brush. It was on airbrush. I'm grabbing a monoline brush and I'm going to make a circle. So I want to make sure that my ink is black, which I just accidentally changed, and make a circle. And then we're going to just change it by holding a finger down and then changing it to a circle rather than an ellipse. And now I'm going to center that dot, that marker. The big red one is where my husband and I met, and I'm going to center that to my circle. This circle is marking my parameters of where I want my map to be. So my next step is to add another layer. You definitely want to be adding in another layer. And now I'm going to start drawing in all of my streets. So you can change the thickness of your streets by changing your pen size, and you can zoom in on your map and just start drawing in the streets. So if it's a major street and they made it a little bit thicker on the map, you can go ahead and increase your pen size and make those streets thicker, and then make the other side streets thinner. Just keep in mind, if you're going to be cutting this on a Cricut, this version I did with my laser machine, but if you're going to be doing the Cricut version, you want to remember the size of these lines are going to be the size that your vinyl will be cut out in. So you want to make sure they're not too thin, because if they're too thin, your Cricut's not really going to be cutting them. So as you can see, I am going through, I sped up here, and I'm just drawing in my lines. They don't have to be perfect, but I'm making the streets within that circle on that new layer that I created. And I'm not gonna lie, at the end you have to go through and make sure you didn't miss anything. Obviously, it doesn't need to be perfect. That's up to you on whether or not you can handle if you miss a few streets or not. But I went through, I zoomed in and out, I changed the size of my brush, and I drew all of the streets on this map within the circle, or I did my best to do so. So just keep in mind, we do need to change this into an SVG format if you're able to on a desktop. If not, you will share to your Cricut Design Space or save the file as a multiple PNG layer and open within Cricut Design Space that way. I also made this on Inkscape. I did a different location just for fun. And both are equally as time consuming when it comes to actually drawing the map, which is why I'm doing this process in 2 parts, this project. I wanted to show you how to actually make the design, and then I wanted to show you how to actually build out the actual craft, because it does take a while between the 2 parts. This isn't one craft where you just upload and go. My next part was to add in the heart where our location is. So make sure you're adding in another layer. That's very important because you want your SVGs to be on different layers. And I just drew a little heart, and I actually ended up using a stamp that I had of a heart to make it a little cleaner. But you can just draw a heart. It'll make it more personal, or you can put whatever shape you want to mark the location. So once I had my heart in, I went back down to the layer where the streets were, and I started to use my pen and my eraser to clean up any marks that I might need to. I definitely suggest doing that in Procreate rather than in Inkscape, but honestly, they're both about the same in terms of how it works. You just go through and erase nodes, or you go through and erase lines. Now to make this into an SVG, I'm going to hit the wrench, hit share, go down all the way to the bottom where it says PNG files. I want to share multiple layers, and then I use AirDrop to send it to myself. So I'm just going to AirDrop over to my computer. Now converting this into an SVG is actually pretty easy. I have all of my PNG images into Inkscape. I went to Path, Trace Bitmap, which is towards the top, and now I'm just going to click on that PNG image, and I'm going to hit apply within Trace Bitmap. And this changes it into an SVG file. I went ahead and changed the color of that heart to red, and I deleted the original PNG image. And I'm going to do the same thing for all 3 layers. So now we're doing our roads. I hit apply. You can do update just to make sure. And if you need to, you can change the brightness. That'll help you get more lines if you made them really light in color. And you just hit apply, and this is making a 3-layered SVG image. Just make sure to delete all of those PNG images before you go to save this as an SVG. And when you go to upload this into Cricut Design Space, you'll see it has nodes. It'll be in 3 layers for you to work with. So now let's switch over to if you are doing everything within Inkscape on your desktop. So just like with when we started in Procreate, you first need a screenshot of your map. So make sure you refer to how your computer takes screenshots. I am using a Mac, and so I use Shift-Command-5 to take my screenshots. I upload that screenshot into Inkscape, and so now I have this here to work off of. I am using my Bezier tool in the regular path mode to create lines throughout the map. You'll see here when I'm selected on this path, which I have the select tool in the corner, I'm changing the fill and stroke size actually of the line. And I was doing this at first for each individual line, but then I realized that at the end I was going to have to intersect them and change them. So what I did was I just started drawing each line and leaving it the size it was, and then we would connect them and change those paths at the end. Sorry, not those paths, those strokes at the end and their size. You're going to have to make multiple layers of strokes because you have different sized streets. And I also realized that I should have drawn my circle first to work within that parameter. So once I had a bunch of streets drawn out with paths, I went ahead and I right-clicked on the stroke, and I went to select the same, and I ended up doing just stroke color for now. It'll matter later when I have multiple types of strokes up, but I went to stroke color, and I combined them first. So as you can see, those ones we made thick are now thin again. So you go to path and then combine. And now I'm going through and I'm going to fill in stroke. This time you're going to go to object and down to fill in stroke, and you're going to change the width of that stroke. Now on this map, I do have some roundabouts. So I'm going to grab a circle. And if you just put a circle in, it's going to be a solid circle. So we don't want that. We want the stroke for the circle, not the fill. So I went down to fill, I right-clicked, I said remove fill, then I went to stroke, which is right below it, and I changed it to black. Now I'm just going to resize that circle so that it fits where it is. And if you see there's a line in between, we are going to get rid of that right now. So I have my stroke circle on the outside. We will connect that in a little bit, so don't worry about it. And now I need to break apart the path in the middle. If you watched my video on nodes, you'll know how to do this, but just for a quick refresher, you are going to zoom in on where you need your path to be broken, and we're going to add in some nodes on that black line that goes through the center. So while you're in node mode, you're going to double click on that line for the nodes, add those in and highlight over both of the ones that you want to delete. So I'm holding shift to click on both, and then I'm going to click break apart path up top, and I'm going to delete that path. You can also delete segment in between. There are 2 ways to do it. And so I am going to now just adjust these nodes so that they are within that black line. So I'm clicking on the node and just moving it over while keeping it straight in line. And that's how you add in a roundabout. And once you have that roundabout added in, make sure you go back to path, combine, and add those lines together. This is the point where I realized I should add in a circle, so I'm holding control and dragging out a circle. It is still in that stroke mode, which is what I want it to be in. I don't want it to be filled, and I'm just making it a little bit bigger and centering it. I'm centering it manually to the red dot where I made my location of where we met. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it to where it's centered and placing the circle around. And this is not going to be combined to the one in the back. This is going to be a separate layer for now. So now I wanted to continue onto some of my side streets. I did try out the pencil rather than the Bezier tool, but I switched back to the Bezier in regular mode at the end because I was going through with my pencil and having to click back for each road. So if it had like a turn, it just got super annoying, I guess you could say, because it just took a little bit longer. So I did switch back to my Bezier tool to make all of my streets. And just like in Procreate, we're just drawing lines and going over. And then we'll connect everything by using path, combine, and then we will change the width of that stroke. And if you're gaining anything from today's tutorial, please do not forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe for new weekly tutorials on using Inkscape and your Cricut. Once you have all of your lines in, we can go ahead and right-click on one of them, select same, and then you're going to do same stroke style. This will click all of the same width, and then we're going back to that path and then combined. And then we'll go over to our fill in stroke panel on our side and we'll change the width. You can change the width to whatever you see fit. Again, remember your Cricut may be cutting this, and so you want it to be thick enough to give you some lines that you can actually see. And this is why it was important to keep those new stroke lines separate from the old ones so that we could have 2 different widths when it comes to our streets. So now I'm just going through with some of my nodes, putting it into node mode, and I'm just moving things around so that they're either straightened or they're shortened. And this is up to you on how much of a perfectionist you are on how you want the lines to be. All right, so once your map is done, you can go ahead and grab your Bezier tool again, and let's draw a heart. It's 2 triangles, and then bring a point down to the middle and back up. It's a little geometric, so let's go into node mode and grab these top 2 in the corner here and round them. And then do the same on the other side, and this is going to give you a heart shape. And then you can grab any color that you want at the bottom. You're going to want to change the color just so that you can see the layers and remove the stroke in the bottom left-hand corner. I am using a Mac, so if you have slightly different buttons, I would suggest just a quick Google search on what these all are on your preferred technology. Now I'm going to go ahead and resize this heart to where I want to put it onto my map. Everything is still disconnected. We have not changed our strokes into an object yet. So if you were to go and upload this into Cricut, it probably wouldn't work correct. So let's get that working properly. Start by deleting your map image. And as I'm just pointing out, this is why it's important to do that circle first. So now it's time to change our strokes into an SVG format. So you're going to click on your strokes, go up to path, and then go stroke to path. that is going to change our strokes into usable SVGs. I know I've been calling these lines paths. I'm sorry, I use them interchangeably, but you want to make sure that all of your strokes are changed officially into paths that have nodes. If you don't do that, your Cricut still reads them. It's just a little strange. It's more like a scoring line rather than a cutting line, if that makes sense. As I was doing this, I realized that we need to mark where our heart is going to go, or you're going to get confused. So you can grab any shape. I'm just going to go with a circle. I'm going to make a small circle that is fit underneath that heart. You want to cover it with a heart. And then I'm going to take the path and I'm going to union the path with the circle I just made. So again, to connect those, it is path and then union while you have both highlighted. So make sure that all of your lines are changed into paths. Again, that is path, stroke to path, and you have to make sure all of them are done before you union all of the lines. Do not union the circle yet. To connect both sizes of lines, you're going to grab both of them by holding Shift and then clicking and then go to Path and Union. And I'm sorry, I missed that step in here. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is change the color of your circle just by clicking on the circle and any color, and remove the stroke as well so you have a blank circle. Move your circle to the back and you are going to highlight over your entire map minus the heart. Make sure you do not have the heart highlighted. Then you'll go to path and you're going to go to intersection, and that's going to leave you with just the circle of the map. This will not work unless you have changed all of those strokes into paths and unioned them. So make sure that you have done that. So now we can go ahead and save this as an SVG file. That will keep the layer between the heart and the map, and then we can send that over to Cricut Design Space. I cannot thank you enough for joining me in part 1 of our Where We Met project. Stay tuned for part 2 where we actually put together our project. It's relatively simple to do, so that video will be a little bit easier. If you gained something today with Inkscape, then please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It helps me so much and I appreciate it. If you're looking for more Inkscape tutorials, please check out my Inkscape 101 playlist. That will help you out in getting started in designing your own SVGs for your Cricut projects. Happy crafting!